The Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer is finally out, and that in and of itself is exciting because it had been rumored to be coming out for a while. There had also been leaks online beforehand. I don't know if the leaked trailer was completely accurate to the one we actually got, but I do know there was a trailer circulating online that had leaked. On top of that, Marvel and Sony did that thing where they released little clips every hour. Personally, that didn't really do much for me, but I think trying something new is fine. I'm sure some people liked it. For me, those 1 second clips were kind of hard to really get anything out of it. It's just hard to speculate on what they mean when it is such a tiny moment with no context. Once the full trailer came out, obviously it was much better because it all made sense. But I do think one thing that strategy definitely accomplished was creating hype. I think it kept people anticipating the trailer and reminding them every hour that it was coming when each new clip dropped. So I do think it worked in that sense. But getting into the trailer itself and kind of the movie as a whole, this really all goes back to No Way Home. Obviously, Doctor Strange cast that spell that makes everyone forget who Peter is, so Peter loses all these relationships that were such a huge part of his life. Now, going into Brand New Day, which takes place 4 years after No Way Home, it seems from the trailer like this movie is about Peter dealing with more than he ever has before. You not only have him dealing with the physical side of things in terms of fighting a bunch of different villains that appear in the trailer. I think we saw Scorpion, Tarantula, and we see Boomerang. And obviously, we have Tombstone confirmed as well, so we'll see him too. We obviously see him interacting with Punisher, and then there's this mystery villain who seems to be controlling people, or at least that is what the trailer seems to indicate. On top of that, Peter is also going through some biological changes. The trailer indicates that his DNA is mutating, and he seems to be having these episodes where he is passing out. There is that scene where he wakes up in what looks like a spiderweb cocoon, and then another scene where it almost looks like he gets possessed, which could potentially hit at another villain as well. And that is just the physical side of it. There's obviously the mental and emotional side as well because of the spell from No Way Home. His best friend does not know him anymore. His girlfriend does not know him anymore. And it even seems like MJ has a new boyfriend, which is obviously really tough for him to accept, for Peter to accept. We also see him visiting Aunt May's grave, so that loss is still very much with him too. So nobody knows him, and he has lost all these relationships, but at the same time, it does seem like he may start to build some of them back up. Because in the trailer, we see him interacting with MJ and Ned, and in the background of one of those scenes, it looks like one of them actually may be obsessed with Spider-Man because there are pictures of Spider-Man all over the wall in one of the rooms he's in with them. And to go along with all that, Peter is also living by himself while watching his friends live out their dream of going to MIT, while he is alone just being Spider-Man. Obviously, 4 years have gone by, so I'd assume we will probably see some sort of montage showing him being Spider-Man over those 4 years and dealing with the consequences of the spell. And I don't mean to jump around here, but one thing I thought was kind of funny and interesting was Spider-Man getting the key to the city, but Fisk apparently is not the mayor, or at least he's not there publicly for that. I don't know if that spoils anything for the second season of Daredevil because that comes out next week. Obviously, Fisk is mayor in that show, and I believe it was reported that Brand New Day takes place after season two. So I think a big question there is what happens to Fisk and why is he not mayor anymore? Because if he still was mayor, you would assume he would be there for something like that unless he's no longer public for some reason, which I don't know why that would be the case. Another thing I thought was really interesting is that we see Spider-Man fighting the Hand, which I think is really cool because obviously we have seen Daredevil fight the Hand, and Spider-Man fighting the Hand would make for a really cool fight scene, obviously. Honestly, there are so many different things being thrown into the trailer, and there are so many different angles you could take with all of it. Now, for this next part, I'm just going to say spoiler warning because I am going to go over some potential leaks or reports that have been coming out or circulating that may or may not be true. Obviously, if they do end up being true, then they would count as actual spoilers. So, again, spoiler warning. To start off, we obviously see Bruce Banner in the trailer, and I'm guessing he is some kind of college professor at ESU, potentially. The last time we saw him, he was basically able to control both being Bruce Banner and being Hulk, but here in the trailer, we see him in human form. There was also a report or leak that we may be getting Savage Hulk back in this movie. Assuming that is true, it raises the question of how exactly that would work, because obviously Professor Hulk is basically sentient and in control, and he's not just this monster anymore, so how would he revert back to Savage Hulk? That becomes even more interesting when you tie in another report that is out there about who Sadie Sink might be playing. Sadie Sink is confirmed for the movie, but it is still unknown who she is playing, and we do not actually see her in the trailer. What we do see, though, is what looks like this hooded figure, and I believe the hooded figure we see facing away from the camera is also the same person who's strapped down to the chair, or at least the same person whose hands we see, because it looks like they're wearing the same thing. There's also a report that the villain or the main villain in this movie is a female character with telepathic powers, or at least the ability to control people and mind control people. We see a little bit of that in the trailer with the woman driving the tank and with the law enforcement people seemingly getting mind controlled. And this is where everything kind of comes together because there's a character that this figure does seem to resemble a character with those kind of powers, and also a character that would make sense for the DODC to be going after, since it looks like she is captured at one point. If you do tie that rumor about the telepathic female villain to the Savage Hulk rumor, one possible way to bring back Savage Hulk would be for this villain to mind control Bruce Banner and force the Hulk out of him. That would obviously be one way to do it. If this female villain can mind control Bruce Banner, she would potentially bring out Savage Hulk, and then Savage Hulk could just wreak havoc on New York City, becoming another huge problem Spider-Man has to deal with. And I think from there, you could maybe get a Spider-Man Punisher team up where they have to take down Savage Hulk. Taking it a step further, based on the trailer and based on the possibility that this female villain is the one strapped to the chair, she obviously needs some way to escape, and I think creating chaos would be the perfect way to do that. Maybe she starts with the tank, Peter stops the tank, then she mind controls another person. Maybe the next person is not Hulk right away, but at some point she reaches Bruce Banner, brings out the Hulk, causes chaos across the city, and uses that as a way to break herself out. None of that is confirmed, obviously. I just think that's a real possibility. And the character I think this female villain could be is Jean Grey. Obviously, Jean Grey is incredibly powerful, especially when you bring the Phoenix into it. And while Jean Grey herself might not be evil enough to do the kind of things I'm talking about, the Phoenix definitely is, especially if it feels trapped. There are obviously some other ways Savage Hulk could be brought out, but I think this makes the most sense because I don't think Bruce Banner would willingly bring back Savage Hulk, even if they needed Hulk to fight a villain. I don't think Bruce Banner likes not being in control, and I think he's at a point where he is happy about being able to do both, basically being Bruce Banner and Hulk while still controlling it. So I think the only way Savage Hulk comes back is if it is not Bruce's choice and someone else forces it out. And obviously, with what Sadie Sink looks like, especially in terms of hair color and all that, she could absolutely play Jean, and I think that is a very real possibility. And if that's true, then there are so many different aspects of this movie coming together that I honestly do not know how they fit all of it in, because obviously you also get extended scenes from Scorpion. So where does he tie into all this? How do they get Hulk back to normal if Savage Hulk does come out? How do they deal with or tame the Phoenix if that is what is happening? And is any of this setting up Doomsday at all? I think those are very real questions. Personally, I have not heard anything about this movie being a direct tie to Doomsday or setting up something huge with that, but obviously the movie does not come out until July, so we will know more when it releases. The only other thing that has really been floated around is the idea of Peter dying in this movie and then being resurrected by the symbiote. And if I remember correctly, the symbiote is in this universe because of Eddie Brock. At the end of No Way Home, Eddie Brock gets pulled out of the MCU, but a little piece of the symbiote is left behind, and that was the post-credits scene of No Way Home. So I'd expect them to use that setup in some way. And I think Peter potentially dying and then being resurrected by the symbiote would be a huge, huge moment in the movie. And it would be crazy to see. And obviously, that would give us Black Suit Spider-Man, which would be super cool. It would obviously make Spider-Man more powerful, and there are a ton of different things you could do with that. I don't know if that sets up Doomsday in any way, but maybe a post-credit scene for this movie could possibly set something like that up. Anyway, that's a lot of stuff I just threw out there. And again, those leaks or potential leaks are all speculative. None of that is confirmed. I just think it's fun to think about and fun to theorize about how all of that could work. And yeah, if we do get even some of that, that would be super cool. And if not, then maybe we get something even better. Hopefully, it doesn't subvert any expectations. But anyway, this movie comes out in a few months. This is the first trailer for it, and I'm sure there will be at least one more trailer before the July release date. I'm super excited for this movie, and obviously, I really hope it surpasses all of my expectations and everyone else's too. But again, we will see when it comes out, and that's it.